DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're going to have a great show today. My guest, Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist, and we're going to run through a series of different toxicology issues he's been seeing out in the country in different cases. It's just remarkable work that he does here at Iowa State University. Thanks for joining us today for the show.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Dr. Ensley, welcome to DocTalk.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate being here.
You bet. Folks, we're on the road at Iowa State University. I'm here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist, and he's the head of the veterinary toxicology section here in veterinary production, veterinary diagnostic and production animal medicine at the College of Vet Med at Iowa State University. Yes. Kansas native.
Yes.
And I'm glad to shoot this here with the nice Flint Hills in the background and
all right.
bring you back home. But
all right.
We're going to talk about toxicology and some of the issues that we're seeing. And lead is the first one we have on the list.
Right. We had a case, pretty devastating case of lead toxicosis in a feedlot. Actually, it was feedlot and some cow-calf pairs. A lead battery from the tractor had accidentally got mixed in with the feed, and we've had about 85 dead animals from the feedlot and another 10 cow-calf pairs out of the 15 they had that have died. And so from northwest Iowa, so it's been pretty devastating to the producer, trying to sort out the food residue issues on the live animals, is another concern. Plus, how do we dispose of all the dead animals with this significant lead exposure? So the typical cases we see calves when they go to grass in the summer and May, when they get exposed to the fencer batteries and consume lead that way. But so this case is fairly rare, but it's high dollar volume and big impact.
So then on the live animal side, and that I assume you're gonna have to do some sort of muscle biopsy or tissue biopsy to see where we're at?
Correct. I mean, so the food residue issues with lead, in the muscle, liver, kidney, blood, we can check whole blood, and hopefully that's going to be reflective of what the other levels are. But we've got samples right now that's what we're looking at. Lead. We're looking at lead in the bone, in the muscle, in the fat, and those other tissues too. So.
The other interesting toxicology case you said with these indoor facilities being built is the hydrogen sulfide issues.
Right. We've in the last 10 years, confinement buildings for cow-calf operations and even feedlots have been increasing in Iowa because our land costs are expensive. We don't have the land to build or house animals, so we've built a lot of confinement buildings. And this year, in the last 2 weeks, we've had issues with hydrogen sulfide from the pits getting up into the floor where the animals are and causing significant death loss on those facilities too. So,
well, when you look at intensifying agriculture, obviously there's some things that we're going to see. What has there been is the pits, it was deep packed for a while, and now we're seeing more pits being included.
Right, and I don't really understand why the pits have gotten popular again. The deep packs we didn't have the hydrogen sulfide issue with. So, and in Iowa, we've got to get the manure hauled out in a timely manner. We've got a short window of time for when the crops are harvested before it freezes. So that's always, that's always an issue, trying to get the pits depleted before we run out of time. And so,
Sure.
Yeah, it's a significant issue for us because of land. Iowa's corn ground's $20,000 an acre, so it's hard to put animals on. So
Corn is king. We're going to wrap up here. Watch for the batteries on lead toxicosis. Watch your pits on hydrogen sulfide. More with Dr. Steve Ensley from Iowa State University after these messages.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Lacey Robinson is a fourth-generation producer who grew up on an Angus cattle operation. Her interest in food animal medicine runs deep. Working on the ranch from a young age helped develop her love for all aspects of beef production and animal husbandry. She and her fiancé have a small Angus herd in the Flint Hills north of Manhattan and market bulls to commercial cattlemen.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide, presented by Lucas Oil, featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV, the all-new Better Horses Network.
Do your cattle struggle with pink eye, BRD, or another disease? Contact Newport Laboratories for a customized solution. Our custom-made vaccines are produced using the specific diseases found in your area. These USDA licensed vaccines offer potential cost savings on vaccine and labor. Contact your veterinarian or Newport Laboratories the next time your cattle are in need of a custom solution. Newport Laboratories custom-made vaccine, because every situation is different.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. We're on the road in Ames, Iowa with Dr. Steve Ensley here. He's a veterinary toxicologist and the head of the veterinary toxicology section. We're thankful to have you on the show and talk about issues. And we're going to talk about poisonous plants and some of the issues that you've been seeing lately with poisonous plants. So
poisonous plants this time of year can be an issue because we gather cattle. Sometimes we gather cattle, put them in a pen, hope to get them all worked that day. We don't, so they stay in there overnight and they're hungry and they'll eat the plants in the pen. That can be an issue. But the two biggest issues we see, and right about when we have frost, are cyanide or prussic acid poisoning with the feeds that they can consume, and also nitrate toxicity. So those two, we do a lot of testing for that, but it's a big issue, even in Iowa where we don't typically have drought, issues.
So talk to me a little bit about how it occurs at the time of frost, or what's the association with that?
So what the prussic acid or cyanide toxicity associated with frost is, the cyanide's contained in the plant, but it's separate from the enzymes that can activate the cyanide or produce the cyanide. So when the plant is crushed or we harvest it or make silage out of it, we get a spike in cyanide release at that time, and freezing will do the same thing. It'll fracture that plant, allow the cyanide to get access to the enzymes that will activate cyanide. So the 72 hours post-frost is a big risk time, so we don't want to feed it or ensile it or green chop it and use it then. But and the varieties that we have are produce less cyanide than we have had in the past, but we still see that as a constant issue. And it's an acute toxicity, die very rapidly, and we do have antidotes, but the issue is they can die within a half an hour when they consume that. So it's quick.
Pretty quick.
It's very quick.
Deal. When we think about poisonous plants, what are some of the plants people should be thinking about or looking out for?
Probably the number one plant that kills more animals in the Midwest than any other plant is actually Japanese yew. It's an ornamental plant that's planted around the houses. People harvest or clean up the house, trim the fences or trim the bushes, and then throw it over to a brush pile. And a handful of leaves will kill a 2,000-pound bull. So they're very sensitive to that, and they don't tolerate that. We have no antidote for that, and it's very acute. Again, it can kill animals within minutes, actually, when they consume that.
So if you're trimming up the trees and shrubs around the house, don't be throwing them out in the brush pile where the cows
Right. It looks like a cedar. A lot of people think it's a cedar bush, but the Japanese yew is a common ornamental, and the toxin it contains is very, very potent. It kills everything but deer. People plant to kill deer and it won't kill deer, but it can. So it's a highly poisonous plant that we deal with.
What about acorns and buckeyes? We have that on the list, and we got about a minute till commercial. But
so we see the potential for acorn toxicity. Oak trees in the pasture is a real issue every year, but usually it takes a perfect storm of short grass, an early frost. The animals are hungry. We'll drop acorns and they'll overconsume because that's all they have to eat. And so even though every pasture we have in the Midwest has oak trees either in the pasture or next to it, it's a potential every year, but we don't see that often. This year, buckeye is also an issue. We had a good buckeye toxicosis in Nebraska. So that's always fun to see.
I saw one where the calves, you opened up the room and they're just full of buckeyes.
Right. That's always what I tell the students. If an animal dies from acorns or buckeyes, it's not that you won't miss it, because when you open them up, you'll have a 40-gallon room and with 50 gallons of acorns or buckeyes. And you wonder how in the world they could consume that, but they will. They'll do it.
Well, we're going to take a break, folks. We're going to come back and talk more about toxicology with Dr. Steve Ensley.
The BQA tip of the day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Hello, Dr. Nels Lindberg here with the Production Animal Consultation and Animal Medical Center out of Great Bend, Kansas. And today for your BQA tip, we're thinking about VFDs. VFDs, you're all kind of getting in tune with them and figuring out maybe what you got to do. If you're not, you really need to catch up and get with your veterinarian and start having those conversations. But first and foremost, you need a valid veterinary client-patient relationship. And if you don't have one of those, you really need to address that and get after it and get that done. From there, work with your veterinarian closely so that you're not scrambling to get those things done. And that's what our biggest concern is people prolonging and waiting to actually get those things done. And come January, February, when you need a VFD, you can't get one done in timely fashion like what you really want. So get with your veterinarian and get after it and get it done and keep at it.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net.
Do your cattle struggle with pink eye, BRD, or another disease? Contact Newport Laboratories for a customized solution. Our custom-made vaccines are produced using the specific diseases found in your area. These USDA licensed vaccines offer potential cost savings on vaccine and labor. Contact your veterinarian or Newport Laboratories the next time your cattle are in need of a custom solution. Newport Laboratories custom-made vaccine, because every situation is different.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist and the head of the Veterinary Toxicology section here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. We're proud to call him a fellow K-Stater and Wildcat as well, and so we kind of crossed paths. You went to K-State and teach at Iowa State, and I went to Iowa State and teach at K-State.
Right. So yeah, I get to have a lot of interaction, you know, with Dan. That's always great. I'd say I taught him all he knows about toxicology. So
he did in veterinary school, and as you can tell, I got a pretty good education and understanding of toxicology and its importance. But Steve, we have water deprivation and urea toxicosis is a couple of.
So the issues with that, urea toxicosis, this is the time of year when if we're short on protein, we can add down protein nitrogen to the diet, you know, relatively inexpensively, but it has to be managed well. So we see cases where animals overconsume urea, they have a hard time mixing it in a ration, or they don't get the, you know, if they're restricted to their 1 pound of protein a day, you know, if they have access to more and they overconsume, again, it's a toxicosis about like cyanide or nitrate, where it's very acute. Within a half an hour of when they consume that, depending on the dose, we can start to see clinical signs and acute deaths. And so we you know, that's one of the typical management errors that we see, you know, in the fall and winter time, because it's commonly fed then.
Yeah, we always tell them no more than 1% of diet dry matter as urea is the urea rule. If you can keep that way, we'll be safe.
Right. Yeah. Dan's a nutritionist. I don't pretend to be a nutritionist, so I always visit with them to get the straight.
I cause the problems.
Right. So we see with liquid supplements, particularly, you know, when if they're not managed correctly, if they're not agitated prior to use, or they're put into a tank and then the tank gets low, it'll concentrate sometimes, and so. It's a common feed additive, very, very, you know, inexpensive and something we will use, but it's the potential for a toxicosis is high.
What about that? You know, you have water deprivation, but water deprivation and water toxicities can be issues, right?
Right. So we see this time of year, you know, especially as we get into the colder parts, if we have, you know, animals that their water device gets frozen, or they can't get, you know, if they're watering from a device that freezes over and they don't get access to water. And in the wintertime, because of less heat and less high temperature, it maybe they can tolerate it for a longer period of time. But we do see, you know, even in cattle, in swine in Iowa, we see an issue where the water lines freeze, they don't get water. But in cattle, we still see the issue where the owner maybe not, you know, they're supposed to break the ice every day or make sure they have water, and somebody's not paying attention, or they miss that detail. And so we typically see, as long as they don't have access, they don't see signs. It's when they get re-access to water after they've been deprived for a period of time is when we see the issue. And again, it can be a very acute toxicity also, you know, within an hour to 2 hours of when they got access to water again, you'll see clinical signs.
Well, fascinating work. I always enjoy listening to toxicology cases.
We get all the crazy ones. We're actually one of the few diagnostic labs with a toxicology section in the Midwest, so we get a wide variety of cases from really all over the U.S. and even international cases. So it's toxicology at Iowa State's always very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's a great service. If you have a toxicology issue, this is the man to send it to. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and wrap up toxicology with Dr. Steve Ensley here at Iowa State University.
When looking at the number of farm and ranch operations, the USDA Census of Agriculture says cattle and beef production is the largest single segment of American agriculture. The census also says the average age of the American cattle farmer or rancher is in the late 50s. In order to support the continuous supply of U.S. beef, these producers need to do some business planning to successfully transfer their cattle operations to younger, independent producers.
Hi, my name is Bill Bartlett. I'm from San Antonio, Florida. We're about 45 miles north of Tampa. I'm third generation rancher here. My grandfather bought this land in the 1930s. He bought this land for 50 cents to $1 an acre. And he bought the ranch, and then along with my dad and my uncle, they ran the ranch through the years. And now it's went to my family with my mother, my brother, and my 2 sisters. I guess what I've seen the most valuable to me personally of the beef checkoff is the promotion of our markets, how it has increased our markets overseas and even here in the United States. Our society has grown. We have people that are farther away from the ranches now that do not understand the way of life of ranching. The beef checkoff helps in some of the misunderstandings that some of the consumers may have. One of my main concerns with the beef checkoff now is the value of the dollar of the beef checkoff. The beef checkoff was established in 1985, and the beef checkoff dollar now is only worth 41 cents. We need more support because we have to educate the people what is going on in the beef industry. We want to educate them about nutritional value of beef.
We've raised our children in this lifestyle, and our middle daughter would certainly like to continue that lifestyle. She has a passion for the cattle industry, and I believe with the beef checkoff's help that she could continue in the beef cattle industry and prosper and have a viable business for her and her children.
We need the support of the beef checkoff to pass this on to the next generation. Our next generation is going to take this industry and have to move forward with it, and with the support of the beef checkoff, they will be able to do this to have a better, more prosperous product here in the future of the beef industry. What we need is support of the beef checkoff in order for these things to continue on.
Horn flies are a nuisance and a production loss, so getting rid of the problem is important. What I like about the vet gun is you don't have to go out there weekly to treat them with a topical fly applicant. It has some duration, it lasts. You see the increase in weight gain, it just works. I've used it on our 1,500 cow-calf operation, and it makes me more confident in saying, hey, this product's gonna work on your operation too.
It's easy to spot the man who uses Synanthic. With lower volume and less waste, Synanthic steps up your deworming routine. Get more deworming with less dewormer at Synanthic.com.
Beringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Inc. knows the importance of beef quality assurance and asks you to step up and get certified. Go to bqa.org for details.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Steve Ensley, who's a veterinary toxicologist and the section head of veterinary toxicology here at Iowa State University's College of Veterinary Medicine. And you know, when we bring people on the show, they're very busy. Dr. Ensley is no exception to that rule. But to get the opportunity, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, well, I like the opportunity because toxicology is probably the most interesting part of veterinary medicine. And the more we can talk about it, the better it is.
Well, it is interesting as long as it's happening on somebody else's place, but not mine. But there are some things that you're seeing here with trace minerals and vitamins. That's kind of been a shift, though, from not having enough to having too much.
Right. So we have some really good products, and you know, and so they've been introduced to the market, well used, and if they're used correctly, we see no issues. And supplementation or deficiencies have been an issue and continue to be an issue with copper, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin E. We still see those as issues, and so we need to supplement usually. And so if we over supplement, that's where we also become involved. And so we've got a machine that we use that can measure a variety of trace minerals at one time, and we also look at vitamin A, vitamin E consistently. And so some of the issue is not just the deficiencies that we normally look at, but the potential overuse, because there's several products, especially if they're used together, mineral supplementations that we see issues with. So. They're good products used just like any product. When they're not used correctly, that's when toxicology becomes involved. But so one thing, we do a lot of liver biopsies. We look at a lot of trace minerals in livers, and I think that's for copper. Really, liver is the only tissue that really tells you what that status is. Serum just won't. In fact, serum is usually whatever the serum level is. The liver level will be the opposite of that. So we get a lot of confusing findings when we're trying to use serum to determine metabolic issues in animals. So.
I hear a lot of times they say you don't measure we measure the level of gas in the gas tank, not the fuel line. And,
right.
And
right. Exactly. And so serum tells you what the diet's been the last 7 days. Liver will tell you what it's been the last 30 days, and that's really what we want to know. What's the diet been over a period of time, because if you make any significant diet changes, it shows up in the serum pretty quickly and doesn't really tell us sometimes what the real nutritional status is.
So will you work with your local practitioner to get some sort of feel on that?
Right. So we see, you know, depending on where you're at in the U.S., there's a lot of regional differences in mineral availabilities or mineral toxicities, and so your local practitioner again is the key. You know, we work with them; they get the samples we need, and we can communicate with them and you know help make sure that we don't have problems with the animals. So nutrition's huge.
Well, thanks for being on the show today. Thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember to always work with your local practitioner. And if you want to know more about what we do on DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Thanks for watching us today. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson at Iowa State University, and I'll see you down the road. Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.